Hey everyone, Richard here. Today we're going to be doing something a little different and taking a look at a game I've yet to really cover on my channel. Yes, I'm finally starting my dive into Rainbow Six Siege, only 5 years late, but who's counting? In this video, we're going to review some entry-level tips on how to start off on the right foot in Siege. Rainbow Six's complexity is only matched by its depth, however, getting a head start can significantly smooth out its learning curve. First off, for the completely uninitiated, what is Siege? Rainbow Six Siege is a tactical, hero-based shooter. It revolves around a small team of elite counter-terrorist operators from all over the globe assembled under one banner, Rainbow. While it tones down the realism significantly from previous Rainbow Six titles, Siege is still a tactical game at its core. Matches are won with knowledge and intel as much as aim and skill. So, what is the first thing a new player should familiarize themselves with? In my opinion, basic movement, breaching, and a core understanding of destruction are critical to getting your foot in the door, sometimes literally. Movement in Siege is much slower than other FPS games, however you are given more options in how you want to navigate the playable environment. Players can walk, sprint, vault, lean, and repel depending on the situation and map. Being comfortable with leaning and repelling especially are important as they can be crucial to winning gunfights later on in your Siege experience. The best ways to practice movement are in situations, training grounds, or solo custom games. Get these down to a second nature so you don't have to stop and think about performing a movement action. Breaching and breaking down barricades are another key concept to understand. Defending operators can place these on windows and doors to slow attacking players' movement and provide concealment. While these barricades can stop movement initially, players can break them down rather easily by meleeing them 3 times, shooting them, or by using various soft and hard destruction gadgets, but we'll talk more about them later. Walls of buildings made of plywood, plaster, and drywall can all be broken down by players. Wooden floors and wooden hatches are also very susceptible to destruction, and both of these are known as soft destruction as they can be damaged easily by players. Even a basic butt stroke from a weapon can punch holes straight through soft walls, although DMRs, shotguns, explosives, breaching charges, and other gadgets are far more effective at opening up soft destruction. Defenders are able to reinforce hatches and walls, although the amount they can reinforce is limited to 2 per operator. These will make them resistant to anything except specialized tools. Destroying these types of walls is known as hard destruction, as it will require an exothermic charge from Thermite, X-Karos pellets from Habana, or Maverick's blowtorch to penetrate. These reinforced surfaces can even be further hardened with countermeasures deployed by various defenders such as Bandit's batteries or Mute's jammers. Understanding what can be destroyed and how is critical to your success in Siege, both as an attacker and a defender. Opening up walls, floors, and hatches will not only give you freedom of movement, but open up additional lines of fire. The next major tip for getting acquainted with Siege is to learn the maps. While not a surprising bit of advice, map knowledge can be a deciding factor for a team. The top priority items to learn on maps are the default camera locations, bomb site locations, common entryways, and navigation. Knowing these will give you a basic idea of how to attack and defend on each map and allow you to coordinate basic maneuvers with other players. Camera location knowledge is especially important on attack as it can deny enemies valuable intel on your location and intentions. Once you're comfortable with the basics of a map, you can start to learn the advanced map information. This includes good firing lanes for both attackers and defenders, common spawn peeking windows and doors, common runout locations, frequent trap locations, and finally, the best bomb sites to defend and why. This sort of knowledge will help you anticipate the actions of OPFOR more easily, and this is especially true once you start playing unranked and ranked matches. Knowing where defenders can peek and run out on attackers can also rob the enemy of free kills early on, and perhaps even punish them for trying. Understanding why certain bomb sites are desirable and why others aren't is very important too. On defense, this will help you properly prepare the site, and on offense, how to effectively attack it. This does start to tap into more advanced tips, but it is a good thing to keep in the back of your head while you're playing your first few dozen matches. A super quick and easy way to learn maps is by playing Elimination on training grounds or by playing a local custom game and exploring each map at your own pace. Local games are especially useful for finding camera locations as they do not spawn in training grounds. Tip number 3 is something that can make or break teams when the bullets start flying. Callouts, as in calling out intel, is a critical skill that every Siege player should learn. Callouts are typically used to convey information to the rest of your team, the position of an enemy, a trap or gadget's location, or other useful intel. Callouts need to be quick, concise, and simple to understand. They should try to give as much useful information in as few words as possible. Brevity is the cardinal rule for callouts. An example of a good callout would be Ash is peeking astronomy window. It tells the team who, what, and where, the 3 key ingredients to a good callout. By contrast, a bad callout sounds like Ash is here, she's behind you, she's peeking, no, she's not there, she's peeking. While this may seem a bit extreme, I have heard worse than this on a regular basis. Not only is the information in the latter callout not really specifically useful, it is also drawn out and prevents your team from using their ears to hear Op4's movement. A good callout should also use proper roam callout names if you and your team know them. If you don't know them, you can use other concise descriptors, what floor they're on, and cardinal directions. I would strongly suggest trying to learn these callouts if you plan on playing Siege a lot, as it will make your callouts much more consistent and easier to understand. I will provide a link in the description with some resources on how to do good callouts. A final sub-tip related to callouts, and this one is an important one, is when sitting on drones or cameras, do not constantly spot or ping enemy players. This will alert them that they're being spotted, which will likely have them hunt down and destroy said observation tool. The only time this is ever really a good idea is when the player being spotted is planting or engaging a teammate, as the being spotted indicator will likely distract them and give your teammate the upper hand. Try not to linger on cameras or drones too long either, as they emit a colored light when they are active. These colors are blue for defense and yellow for attack. Tip 4 is somewhat tangential to our last tip, and it focuses on drone usage and drone economy. Siege is a game based on intel, especially actionable intel, and attackers are typically the weakest in their intel gathering abilities. Drones are one of the best tools attackers have to gain an intel advantage over the enemy, so you should definitely use them, but use them wisely. Attackers will have 2 drones per round and will get to use one during the prep phase to scout the enemy's position. These can either be kept on the map or picked up by an attacking player, however, they can also be pretty easily destroyed by the defending team. For this reason, try and minimize your exposure when droning in the prep phase, as having an extra drone later in the match can be crucial for rooting out entrenched defenders. Once you have determined the bomb's location, either by spotting it or by process of elimination, there are a number of things you can do with your drone. First is to get the drone out of the building so you can retrieve it as you spawn. This is the safest approach, and you can always use the drone again later. Second is to scout for traps and roaming defenders. This is much riskier, as you're likely to be spotted and destroyed by the enemy, but it can make entering the defender-held zone much safer. Finally, you can hide the drone in order to gain an easy intel advantage on site. This does require a bit of practice to learn, but hiding under tables, on shelves, or in corners is ideal. Also, try turning the drone's camera away from players so they can't see the bright glowing yellow light on the front of the drone. Certain defensive operators can pose greater risks to drones. These include Mute and his jammers, and Mozzie and his drone hijacking pests. Electrified shields, barbed wire, walls, and hatches can also destroy drones as well. I will say this again because it bears repeating. Drones are attackers' biggest intel asset, so don't waste them. My final tip revolves around knowing operators, their gadgets, and their overall roles on a team. Siege, as of making this video, has just over 50 operators, each with their own unique abilities. Some operators will range in complexity too. While Sludge's breaching hammer is pretty damn straightforward, using Liant's EED-1 drone correctly requires a bit of team play and game knowledge. It's also important to know the different armor classes for operators. Each can have an armor rating of 1, 2, and 3, with a corresponding opposite speed rating. This means 3 speed operators will have an armor rating of 1, 2 speed operators an armor rating of 2, and 1 speed operators having an armor rating of 3. What armor class you have also determines how noisy you are, especially when sprinting. A helpful and somewhat useful way to understand operators is to divide them into categories depending on what meta role they fit into. Some examples for attackers would include soft breachers for breaking soft surfaces, hard breachers for smashing through reinforced surfaces, intel operators for gathering information on enemies, and counter roamers for rooting out lurking defenders. Moving over to the defending side, some common roles include anchors for holding and defending sites, roamers for flanking attacking enemies, entry deniers for slowing or negating enemies from entering sites, and trappers for damaging or downing attackers who are not cautious. These two lists are not quite exhaustive, and I will likely make a video on the topic itself, but it provides a good amount of insight on how you can break down each operator and how to use them. For example, Caveira is typically considered to be a very powerful roamer, but her interrogation ability makes her an intelligence gatherer as well. IQ on the attacking side is also a very good counter to electronics, but she can also entry frag and counter roam, especially against Pulse. This is again starting to touch into the realm of advanced tips, but keeping all of this in the back of your head will make the game make more sense to you. It will also let you better understand the actions of your teammates and enemies and develop operator synergy. Make sure whatever operator you pick, you understand the usage of their ability or gadget. Using Twitch drones to tase players while annoying to the enemy is a huge waste of her utility. However, using her drones to destroy electronic gadgets such as Bandit's batteries, cameras, and Jaeger's ADS, that's a big brain move. Some easy operators to cut your teeth on for attack include Sledge, IQ, Thatcher, Blackbeard, and Ashe. For defenders, Rook, Frost, Kapkan, Mute, Lesion, and Jaeger would be my recommendations for new players. While they do still have a lot of nuance to their gadgets for advanced play, the basics of them are very simple and straightforward. Nothing gets much simpler than a big-ass hammer or a bear trap. Overall, Siege is an immensely complicated and nuanced game, and that is one of the main selling points of the game, at least to me. No matter how good you get, every match, every round, and every gunfight is always a lesson learned. Siege is a game that prioritizes knowledge first, intel second, and skill third. Skill wins gunfights, intel wins rounds, but knowledge will win you matches. I hope you all enjoyed this video and maybe even learned something useful about Siege. I wanted to keep these tips relatively general as Siege is an evolving game, but let me know if you have anything to add in the comments below. If you like my content, consider subscribing or becoming a member of the channel. Join us next time when I take a look at all the various hats attackers and defenders wear in Siege, but until then, happy hunting.